Welcome again to Cottage Talk. I am Russ Goldman. Joining me right now are the guys from the Hammersmith end. I have joining me Alex, Kamal, and Matt, and we are back, and we are going to discuss this Fulham victory that they watched at Craven Cottage against Leeds United. It's a lot to talk about in regards to this match with the guys. I've already done a post-match show. I was a little negative. I'll try not to be as negative with these guys, but who knows? We'll see how it goes. But before we do anything else, I want to welcome the guys back. Alex, how you doing?
I'm good. Good, thanks, Russ. Good to see you again. How's it going?
It's great to see you. Matt, how you doing?
I'm good, Russ. Good to be back.
It's great to have you back. Kamal, you can't pick the whole team as man of the match. I'm going to say that right now. How you doing, Kamal?
I'm good. I got the judge keeps asking me to send a picture of the shirt that he sent me.
Oh, that's great.
So here we go.
Oh, that's great.
I know we all like a shirt. Hey, Russ, don't we?
What was that?
We all like a nice Fulham shirt, don't we?
All right, my friend. Good stuff. All right. So let's get me opening thoughts, and then we'll talk about what you guys discussed before the match. Alex, I'll go to you first. Just thoughts on the victory and how it all played out.
Well, it was a dreadful game. The first half was appalling. Second half got a little bit better. I was very worried at the start of the second half because it was absolutely bucketing. It was like a Welsh Valleys downpour that I worried would suit Leeds because they're pretty much the entire Welsh national team. So I was pleased we managed to second half stamp our authority a bit, but really it was a dreadful game. There's not much to talk about except for one thing, which is Kevin. I'm sure that's all we'll talk about today. It was very exciting. Even before he came on, I've never heard somebody's name sung so much before they've even kicked a ball for the club, So the fans didn't stop calling for him. So that was the good thing about yesterday.
That is great. Suhail has a little comment there. All right, good stuff. Kamal, opening thoughts from you. How about you?
Well, I went with my Fulham shirt for the first time. I was too embarrassed to wear it, but I mean the Hammy end actually really likes it. I mean, nobody gave me any dirty looks when I was wearing a home shirt. So thanks to the judge for that. I turned around at halftime. I know we're going to pace the game, and I said to Alex, "So what do you think of the match?" And he said a 4-letter word, and he goes, "There isn't much else to talk about." But for me, I was, I thought I didn't think it was as bad as Alex did. I did enjoy. I think the majority of the second half.
Okay,
it was a great day, sunshine and rain throughout the match.
Okay, good there, Kamal. Matt, how about you? Opening thoughts on what you guys watched together at Craven Cottage on Saturday?
It was appalling. It was really bad. If ever there were a goal befitting a game, it was
that one.
It was an own goal in the 94th minute from a player under no pressure, deciding somehow to just say, you know what, you guys have the points. It was a really, really bad watch. There were bits of entertainment. Tactically, it was quite an interesting, contest between two teams that just didn't want to lose, and very relieved. Really, I think if we'd not won this, the pressure ahead of the Brentford game would have been
massive,
cranked up. And the reality is we've now only lost one game in 4, despite a fairly difficult on paper start to the season, and that's that's no bad thing. And in that game, we went ahead if it weren't for PGMOL. So. I'm pretty relieved is my overall feeling.
That's actually a good way to look at it. That was actually a word that I used, relieved, because the watch was horrible, as you guys will talk about in this episode. But I just want to say I'm just glad that they got the 3 points, but I'm not really thrilled about what I watched and what you guys had to watch at Craven Cottage. And it's going to get us going by starting before the match. And I'll get us going because I want to get your view. I don't want to influence what you were talking about, but I'll just tell you what I was thinking when I saw the starting 11. I thought, as Matt, you just said, Fulham are set up to not to lose. And I thought Silva set Fulham up not to lose instead of to win. And that was a little bit disappointing. When I saw that one that Kevin was on the bench, I thought he might go there, that he wouldn't start him. But when he saw that he was playing Berg and Lukic together, I thought, okay, he's being very conservative. I'm now calling it safe Silva. That was safe Silva. And that's the frustrating part, guys, is that you're home. You shouldn't be safe Silva unless you're playing Liverpool, Chelsea, and Man City. You shouldn't be playing safe Silva, Matt, against Leeds United. So I'm curious what you were thinking before the match and also what I just shared there.
So there are a couple of things. I think Leeds United they're the tallest squad in the Premier League, so they are the biggest team.
Yeah.
And if you take out one of Lukic or Berger, you're taking out one of our tallest players. So there's at a very basic level, having some big guys to play against some big guys is quite helpful. I don't know whether you could see it on TV as clearly, but the guy Stack, who was taking their corners, that's the biggest player I have ever seen take corners. And he was 6'4", I guess, and he's the guy out taking the corners. It was madness. So I expected Silva to play both Berger and Lukic.
Okay, because of that.
Because of that. And then the second thing is that, so our record after international breaks is really bad. And some of that, I think, is down to our players. Some of our players are really key individuals for their national teams. And Iwobi had done nearly 180 minutes with Nigeria. He would be the person to go into centre midfield if we were going to drop one of Berger and Lukic, is the presumption. And I think he looked tired throughout the whole game. I think sticking him in a midfield against their, Matt Longstaff for them, I thought was, they were really fit. Ampadu, Stack and Longstaff were physical and very fit. And I think if Iwobi had just been chucked in there, he would have got overrun. So I was okay with it. I was disappointed not to see Chukwueze on the bench as well, but excited by the prospect of Kevin, and that proved to be the right thing to look forward to.
You muted there, Russ.
Yep, sorry about that. Yep, there's a Goldman for you. So what were you thinking before the match, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, I was a bit surprised Robinson isn't back. I know he was back on the bench before the international break, so I thought he would have got up to speed. I do think Sess had a poor game, so that was something that turned out to be rightly a worry, and he didn't even make an appearance. So, but yeah, I was pleased to see Harry Wilson starting. Obviously, he was we had a little bit of a worry around transfer deadline. I thought we were going to lose him, so I'm pleased that he was in the starting lineup. I completely understand Matt's points around Lukic and Berger for this game. I also see where you're coming from. You want to be a bit more positive, but I think the context that Matt's just drawn out there is really valid, and it makes a lot of sense. The other thing I would just say is, we struggled against the promoted teams at home last year. I think we got 2 draws and 1 scrape win against Leicester. So it was one of those. I was saying that the draws against Brighton and Man United were creditable, and we hadn't got points against those teams in those fixtures last season. But Chelsea, obviously, we went and beat, so we were actually a bit behind where we were last season. So I was a bit worried that if we didn't do something well against Leeds, that it was going to start to look like what had been a kind of quite positive start to the season would start to look a sluggish one. So it was all about the 3 points, and I was expecting us to be a bit more dominant though.
Okay. Excellent. Come on, what were you thinking before the match?
I'd say the same, but I noticed there's a whole bunch of knives behind Alex's head. And I'm very glad that he didn't bring those knives to him, particularly at half time. I'm going to answer the question, Mr. Goldman.
Yes.
What I was thinking before the match, not during or after.
No.
And we were all anticipating. Everybody's quite excited because of the transfers that have come in. And we were all aware that this is going to be a chance we get to see some, I don't know. Well, there's only 1 buy and 2 loans, but some pretty phenomenal talent. And me, I've been sending you videos of Jonah Kusi Asare.
Yes, you have been.
And the kid's a genius. And I was anticipating seeing him. But my psychic abilities is not as good as Matt Wall, and I couldn't be as sure that he would turn up on the bench as much as Matt has got his background sources telling him that Kevin was going to arrive on that day. So it was very, very exciting. We were excited, and I think Alex turned up a bit late. I think because of the trains.
Made it on time for kickoff. But I had to get a sprint on. All the stations were closed around the ground, Russ.
Oh yeah, he ran from Parsons Green to Craven Cottage. He ran all the way. He's in good shape.
He is not.
Matt is right again.
Good stuff, guys. And before we get into talking about the match, I do want to talk about Kevin because I think that's part of the storyline of what happened during the match. But before the match, when you saw that he was on the bench, I'll just go around to all three of you. Matt, were you okay with him being on the bench for this particular opponent? What were you thinking? You probably thought he would come on sometime in the second half. Were you okay with that decision?
I was not surprised. No, I wasn't okay with it. I wanted him to go straight in. It's not Chukwueze. Makes sense that he's not being played, right? He's hardly played for AC Milan, and he played something like 8 minutes for Nigeria over the 2 games while they were away. Yep. And Jonah Kusiasari is a prospect for the future. He may get some game time in the League Cup and later in the season, or if there's an injury. Kevin has been playing every game for Shakhtar and scoring every game for Shakhtar. This season, he got 5 and 5 before he joined us. He's been training the whole of the international break with Marco and with Muniz and with Emil Smith-Rowe. Josh King was away with the under-19s. I was ready to see Kevin from the start, and I think we would have seen a much better, day yesterday if Kevin had started. But Marco has always been quite slow in integrating new players.
This is true.
He doesn't like to disrupt the system too much. And, the reality is we won yesterday, so we can hardly say that he failed, but he very nearly did fail. And I spent most of the last 20 minutes of that game starting to wonder whether we were in fact rubbish, because we were going to draw 0-0 with Leeds, scrape a draw against Brighton. I think we were quite lucky to get a point against United, who could have been 3-0 up in the first 20 minutes.
That's true.
And then a loss to Chelsea, and you start to look at it and go, are we rubbish? And now I'm fine, we're 10th.
That's what I love about you, Matt. That's awesome. Okay. Alex, I want to get your thoughts because, again, we talked about it. And as I've said on this show, Matt Wall deserves credit. He told me off air that he did not have any inside information, but he felt very strongly that it would go our way, and he ended up being right. So he deserves all the credit for basically predicting that Kevin would end up with us. And honestly, we'll talk about it when we certainly talk about the second half and the impact that he had, because I think it's massive. But I just want to talk about, before the match began, you saw that he wasn't included starting. Were you okay with that? I want your thoughts, and then I'll go to Kamal.
Yeah, I mean, so I was fine with it insofar as it's very typical nowadays. You very rarely see a new signing come straight in. They like to integrate them. A couple of points, though. One, the point that Matt made around Iwobi maybe not starting in that midfield.
Right.
It's still the case that he looked tired anyway, even if he's out wide. So that would have been a good reason maybe to rest Iwobi. And, he didn't have a good game. And I feel like Kevin certainly should have come on earlier at the very least. But, having seen what he did, I kind of think, well, yeah, he really should have started, because also, we stayed after, and Anthony Robinson came and did a little interview, behind the kind of at the Cottage. And he was saying, like, the first day of training, he was just unbelievable. He said after that Tete's basically been kicking lumps at him since then to try and acclimate him to the Premier League. So, I don't know how the rest of his week went, but it sounds like he was incredibly impressive in training. He fitted straight in. He looked just so confident when he came on. So in hindsight, I'm like, yeah, he should have started instead of Iwobi.
Okay.
But yeah, there you go.
Okay, and over to you, Kamal. This is actually, as the guys have already said, Marco tends to stick with his lineup, stick with his guys, and it sounds like that's exactly what he did here. But were you disappointed at all that Kevin didn't start from the beginning?
No, I mean, I got really vibed up by all the shouting behind me, for him to, I mean, it really took off in the second half where people en masse, maybe a few thousand people were screaming, "We want Kevin," when they didn't see him. As for the lineup, I mean, I'm just looking at the lineup now. It looks like a Carling Cup lineup, where Wilson, who I love, was starting, Super Sub was starting. Josh King was starting, which is great. Forced his way in. I mean, he's probably part of his contract negotiation. So we've got a lot of players here who don't normally start,
Right.
but also it alludes to the international break where a lot of the players were tired. But I do agree. I don't know who said this. I think Matt said this. I'm a bit sorry. I'm a bit tired because I was watching a fight last night. So it was very late at night. But I don't think Marco needs to address the way that he plays around and tinkers with the team, because I always think he subs too late. He should give them around 15 minutes. He should give them 30 minutes, and. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen it, but I didn't listen. I didn't know anything about Kevin. Kevin is all, about Matt and his crystal ball, man. I mean, I knew nothing about Kevin. I just know that he was very expensive. Matt was talking about him all the time, and you did that podcast. You spoke to that Shakhtar podcast.
Yeah, I was convinced after that. By the way,
Yeah,
he was so good. That guy was. I mean, I really, really got me excited about how he said he was the favourite player. For Shakhtar, for everybody in that team, and I wanted to know. I wanted the curtain to raise.
I think the thing that was really interesting yesterday. I think that's the first time I can think of where the crowd have. I mean, look, it was coming from a very positive place, but the crowd have basically told Silva what they want to happen in a way that I've never heard that before. Where we've had all the crowd chanting for
for
player.
Kevin to come on,
and for Silva to make a change. And the reality is, we're all of the view. You were watching, from a sort of better vantage point, Russ.
Right.
The game needed the change. I mean, we were all thinking maybe it's going to happen at half time.
Right.
And I do think the Adama change actually made a big difference. I thought Adama was good. He was his typical self. A couple of crosses that went into Rosette, but he stopped them attacking down that side. But really, I think Kevin came on 15 minutes too late for me. He should have come on 60 minutes.
Totally agree, Matt. Totally agree.
But I don't remember seeing that before, where the fans were in total disagreement with Silva.
That's interesting because I heard that too. Alex, what did you make of that? Because that, as Matt has said, he's never seen that before, that the fans were vocal, that they wanted Kevin on.
Yeah, I would, I don't know. I'd frame it slightly differently because I think a part of that is just exuberance, right? We've got a record signing. We want to see him, and right from the first half, people were shouting that they wanted him on the pitch. So I think it's not. I would frame that not so much as telling Silva what to do. Although I do think Matt's right. He did bring him on too late. I think it was more that we just were shouting for him to play. We just wanted to see the guy. I think enough of us had heard things about him, seen clips, seen the fee to think, let's get this guy on, especially as the game was dreadful. It helps. It gives the fans a reason to kind of call all the more. But it is amazing. I've never seen somebody's name cheered so much who's never kicked a ball for the club at that point. So, but yeah. There you go.
Alex, you were doing it too. You were screaming.
I wanted Kevin on.
So you were doing it. You wanted Kevin on too.
Yeah, of course. It's fun to say Kevin as well. It's such a ridiculous name for a footballer.
It is. It is. It's great though. So, Kamal, you talked to me yesterday. You and I talked offline, and just share with the audience, because the guys have already mentioned what it was like to hear this guy's name, who has never played for Fulham, basically brought to the attention to basically tell Silva, well, not like we're going back and forth telling Silva to put him on, but the fans wanted him on, Kamal.
First, I want to refer to something that happened like a few days ago that relates to this.
Okay.
And I went down to the boat. As always, having digital ticket troubles, because me and me and my brother, the judge, got a ticket, so I had to go, and it wasn't working online. So I went to the box office. Big shout out to Charlie, who works in the box office. Amazing guy, and I know he watches the show.
Oh,
so,
that's great.
Russ, can you believe it's somebody who works at Fulham actually watches the show? It's
That's
good
great.
news for us.
That's
So,
excellent news.
But what was he talking about? And this is like 3 or 4 days ago. Talking about Kevin. You know? So who isn't talking about Kevin?
Everyone's talking about Kevin. And guys, what's interesting, and if you didn't watch the post-match show, I'll tell all three of you this. So this morning and last night, I spent a lot of time listening to Leeds United podcasts and videos and watching videos because I was curious their perception of the match from their view. And obviously they have a different take on how the match went down. But when it comes to Kevin, every show mentioned how that they were, I'm paraphrasing, jealous that we had Kevin, that Kevin changed the game. They all said that every Leeds United related show I watched and radio show mentioned this. So it's obvious that everyone can see what he can do. And I think that's also goes to the why we're a little bit disappointed. As Matt said, if it comes on at 60 minutes, I don't think we're really, quibbling here. It was at 75 minutes that you're thinking, why did he wait so long? And I doubt we'll get the answer on that. But that was the curious nature of when he came on. And we'll talk about that when we get to the second half. But unfortunately, guys, I'm sorry. Kamal, do you have a question?
Yeah, it's very quick. Just to ratify what you were saying, as usual, was on my bi-weekly appearance on 606 with Chris Sutton, Robbie Savage, and they didn't talk about the match. They talked about the goal, and then they talked about Kevin. You're right. Everybody is so aware of this specific player. I'm not so sure Matt Wall's prediction has transfixed the nation. I'm not quite sure.
I'm afraid on that 15-minute showing, my prediction is that he won't be with us next year. I think we'll sell him in the summer. But I think we'll sell him.
Matt, don't predict that. Please
million.
Don't predict that. Okay. Because you know what? I want to enjoy him for at least maybe a couple seasons before we go down there.
Nice, but yeah,
couple seasons. But
I think
yes,
I think we'll get tested in the summer. I think he'll be off to Liverpool or Tottenham or something for £75 million.
Yep. By the way, your brother's right because I listened to this. That was a great appearance of you on 606. That was really good. You do a very good job whenever you're on there. Come on, I just want to say that. Okay, so guys, I don't want to spend too much time talking about the first half because it was terrible to watch, and I'm sure you'll share that with me. So let's just get to it. We don't have to spend too much time. I'll go to you first, Alex. So from the get-go, and this is just my view, and obviously I want your view. It just looked so ragged, just going back and forth. There didn't seem to be any kind of flow to it. But one thing that stood out to me was, as I mentioned earlier, and I want to give credit to Leeds United, that they really came to play and they knew what they had to do. And I saw that in the first half. What did you take out of the first half, and what were you thinking and talking about in the first half?
Yeah, I mean, just that it was completely ragged. I think we were really frustrated, in the Hammersmith end. It was just not a good watch. It was shambolic at times. There was some, pretty
terrible passing, by the way. Terrible
passing. Lack of ambition, lack of energy. Leeds were the better side in the first half, if we're honest. Yeah. They didn't create much. That was the other thing. It was boring as well, because it just, as much as they were probably the better side, it wasn't like they're playing beautiful flowing football. They were just the slightly better of two, rugged teams who are trying to hold it together, and we made more mistakes, frankly. So, through the first half, we're just talking about how this needs to get better and probably singing Kevin's name. That was it.
Okay. Kamal, what were you thinking while watching that first half? And what are you guys talking about?
Well, I was enjoying. I was laughing watching Alex's face. That made me kind of, because he looked like a zombie, really. And I thought Leeds by far had much more efforts on goal in the first half than we did, and it was a bit unnerving. And it takes me a while to kind of get into the match. And I've got Ben and Holly big fans of the show, was sitting next to me, and I was speaking a little bit too much with Ben and Holly, and it's because I was bored, you know.
Yeah.
But then I started towards the second half or the first half. I started getting very pensive and nervous because I wasn't seeing any efforts on goal, and they were having far too much of the ball. And I'm hearing a lot of the Leeds fans. I know you listen. They're all so worried about where they're going to be this season. But I thought they did a pretty good effort. Particularly, I know there's a lot of haters for Calvert-Lewin. And who was it? Somebody was asking about Okafor. What's the name of that chap over there?
Yep.
But I thought they, for the first half, they kind of bossed us. They didn't really get much on. They got twice as many shots on target as we did.
Yep.
And they weren't that good, but they were better than us. And I was really surprised at how much effort and pace Leeds were showing against us. And I thought maybe that's just like vengeance for not getting Harry Wilson on deadline day. Who knows? I know
that's
that
very interesting.
The smile to Alex's face. Well,
I was very worried we were going to lose our only Welsh player, but no.
Okay. Well, we didn't.
Yeah.
But that's very interesting that you say that. And Matt, I want to get your thoughts on that because as we talk about it, and I'm going to share a comment from Kamal's brother Suhail because I want to talk about that as well. What did you make of that first half? Like I said, we've already described it as ragged, but Leeds were at it. What did you make of their performance in the first half and how it affected Fulham? Or was this more to do with Fulham?
It was a bit of both. I thought Leeds turned up well. I thought they had good big players who were organised well. They looked more athletic than us. My big sort of negative observations in the first half, of which there were many. Sessegnon, sadly, just isn't Robinson going down the left. And I think Suhail sort of makes the note that Batty in particular held onto the ball for too long.
Yeah,
I think not having Robinson sprinting past at full tilt in a threatening way, and Sessegnon's crosses are all dinked up to the far post, which, that's fine if your centre forward is going to win every header, but it was Muniz on his own against two. Joe Rodon I thought was very good. And Pascal Strike was perfectly good. And that, those are two 6'4", 6'5" centre backs. The crosses weren't good enough. The pace wasn't there because Sessegnon isn't that quick. The biggest worry for me, honestly, was Josh King, who that's such an important role. And this isn't a high quality opposition, and he couldn't get in the game. And it was absolutely appropriate that he got taken off. And again, I would have probably done that sooner, but Silva has to manage him appropriately. And I think there is an argument for Josh King having been tired because he was playing for England under 19s. But in a game where you're looking for someone to carve out an opportunity or to create a moment, that's the player that you want, is the person in behind your number 9 in the number 10 spot. And Josh King, I can't remember him doing a single thing all game. That was a worry for me, and I was pleased when it was addressed. Emile Smith-Rowe looked better rather than brilliant, but he did look better when he came on.
Well, we could talk about Emile Smith-Rowe, and I know Alex will have his view on that when we talk about the second half. But I do think that he had an impact, Matt, when he came on. But that's very interesting because I was thinking similarly, where's Josh King? And you're just mentioning, was it the wrong opponent? Was it, like you said, playing for England? What was it? Just an off game, Matt?
Yes, all of those probably. Honestly, I think he had a not great game. I think he probably was a bit tired, and maybe, hindsight is a horrible friend, right? It's easy to sort of pick the team having seen what happened. Maybe it would have been better going with Smith-Rowe, who'd been training with Muniz all week, whilst the others were away on international duty. But I think we would have all been, if we'd had that performance and Smith-Rowe had been in the number 10 spot, I think we'd have all been saying, Josh King has been excellent. Why have we dropped Josh King? So you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Good point.
The only thing I thought was a positive from the first half, so Anderson becoming captain, I think makes a difference in terms of our leadership on the pitch and our engagement.
That's a great point.
with the referee. I thought we were much better. Anderson was constantly talking to the referee, and that's something with Leno as the captain, we just haven't been able to do. And actually, I think Robinson is too nice when he's the captain to do it. So Anderson, I thought was really good. And then he was the guy. Like, he misplaced a few passes, but it was that kind of game. But he was the guy who was trying to make things happen across the back line.
I noticed that, yes.
And I think he was good. That guy, the Noah Okafor, the Swiss striker, sort of or wide forward, he is rapid. And Anderson got in a couple of one-on-ones with him, and and there were no problems. So I think Anderson, we're seeing Anderson back to the Anderson we saw when he first re-signed for us, and that's a real positive.
I was going to say that because I've been very critical of him, Matt. But I'm now starting to think that the injury was a bigger deal last season. That I didn't give that enough credit that maybe he was injured that second half of the season and we just thought he lost it. And now I'm thinking that that's not the case, that it actually is the injury. Alex, I want to go to you because I'm glad that he took us to talk about Anderson, because I think that's a huge positive, not just to come out of the first half, but to come out of the game. The fact that he was wearing the captain's armband, but was a leader on the pitch and looks the part now. I don't think he's had a bad performance yet.
No,
this season.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think he's really getting back to his best. As Matt said, there were a couple of balls that went astray, but at least he was trying to be positive, trying to break the lines, looking over the top. I think his new haircut also makes him look a bit meaner as well. He looks a bit too gentle with the all those locks. So I just think he looks like a different animal this season so far, and that's really positive because him and Bassi together are extremely formidable if you've got Anderson on form, because Bassi's been great for a season and a bit now. So yeah.
Okay, excellent. All right, guys, let's transition. Let's talk about halftime. We get through this half. It's a terrible first half. And I just want to ask both of you, what were you thinking, what was needed at halftime? Alex will go to you first, and then Matt will go to you. What were you thinking? Were you thinking Kevin now? Were you thinking at this point at halftime?
Totally. I was thinking changes. I was thinking we would see changes at halftime. I thought Silva would be annoyed. I thought he would take action. I wasn't expecting the same line out to come out in the second half. I mean, I would have taken Iwobi off myself earlier, probably at halftime, maybe King as well. Although I wish he kept King on for another 40 seconds because it would have got me 2 extra points in my fantasy football.
Sure, it's all about you, Alex.
It's all about me. 59 minutes. I mean, that's so cruel. Just get to 60 and we can get our points. Anyway, I was expecting to see changes. I mean, I really wanted to see Robinson on as well because we miss his energy down the left. It's so true. So I was thinking, there's definite options for us to impact stuff, and I thought Silva would be annoyed. So I was worried when they came out second half, the downpour as it was, same team. I was a bit like, oh, this could be a bad. But we started the second half really well. So whatever he didn't change things, at least he got them, got them coming out with a better attitude, I think.
Okay, Kamal, you're back with us. What were you thinking at halftime? Were you thinking changes, or what do you think needed to happen?
I was thinking about how long the queue for the Bovril was going to be, really. So, and then we weren't so inspired. Normally, when you're halftime, we go off and then we come back, but nobody was in a desperate rush to get back in for the start of the second half. And what kind of got me in was watching Alex's miserable face towards the end of the first half. And I thought, I'm going to come back and have a bit more of that because it was entertainment. I did think that, the energy and the pain. The one thing is, it just seemed like a system that was off. And I think the guys were referring to how Marcos, he likes, he doesn't really like to play with his system. But in this match, there were a lot of guest, subs that were appearing as main starters. And I think he must have realized at some point that it was just not working and he had to tinker, but he tinkered quite late. I was a bit worried that We had such a good. Everybody talks about the Chelsea match, and we had such a good show against Chelsea. We were all hoping, right, we're gonna have a bit of Chelsea revenge. We're gonna smash up the next team. And what it looked like is that we looked like a team that had had our spirit broken, and we're looking down.
It's
Looking
interesting.
down.
No, it's a good point. And Matt, I want to go to you. As Kamal's talking, I'm just thinking to myself, and that's why I want to ask you this, because you're at halftime and you're watching a team that is struggling to break down Leeds United. And I think you've already mentioned this. Teams like them in years past, Ipswich Town. I could name your team that got promoted. Fulham have struggled to break down teams like this that are set up basically they came to Craven Cottage to get a point. Matt, I truly believe that. They were not set up to win. They were set up not to lose. As we said, I think both teams were set up not to lose, which is very frustrating. So what were you thinking at halftime? Obviously, you wanted changes, but what did you make of how Fulham were playing and what was needed to change this?
I didn't expect him to make changes because it looked like a system problem as much as a personnel problem, and I assumed that Silva would be able to talk to Josh King about how to find space a little bit better, or talk to Muniz about stretching, these two quite immobile strikers, defenders, and maybe Muniz sort of try and drag them around a bit, which neither of those changes happened. Of the changes that I wanted to happen, Alex has already mentioned that I really wanted Robinson to come on because we just miss him. He's thank goodness he's on such a long-term contract, and I think we now will hold on to him. And I wanted to see Kevin come on as well. Iwobi looked jaded. He looked tired, and which is totally fair enough. But we've got the squad. I mean, our substitutes. Our bench is so good. You look at the 5 people that we brought on.
I know.
Like Smith Rowe, Adama, Kevin, Kenny, and Raul Jimenez. That is an extraordinary bench to be able to call on. We needed to use it earlier.
Okay. And I totally agree with that. That's why I was a little surprised. But as you guys are talking about and as I watched it and I look back at it, I'm thinking he doesn't generally make changes like this at halftime unless they're behind. So I'm thinking this is kind of what he does. Sometimes he does, but more often than not, he doesn't. I just was surprised that he waited so long on one, but he did make changes that changed the game. So I'll give him credit for that. So let's talk about the second half. And Matt, I'll go right back to you. Just give me your thoughts. Let's go through it a little bit because Leeds United, they had an opportunity. I think maybe 1 or 2 early and a really good one. And Bernd Leno came out big. And then let's stop right here. Let's talk about the opportunity from Harry Wilson. This was actually you should have had a good view of this. What did you make of the opportunity from Harry Wilson?
It was a good hit. I mean, look, I feel slightly. I love Harry Wilson. I do feel slightly like we've been ripped off. So when he joined, he had this back catalogue of free kick after free kick.
Yes, he did. Yes.
And he's yet to score a free kick, I think I'm right in saying. I know he scored one in pre-season against Nottingham Forest, but that doesn't count. But, the Harry Wilson free kick show has not started at Fulham.
Never happened. Yeah.
The reality is that it was a really good hit. It looked better in the stadium than I think it actually was. So having seen the replay, it wasn't quite as in the corner as I thought it was. And it's on the side that the keeper, if it goes in, when you put it on the keeper's side, then it's not great. But he hit the target and it was a good connection. Yep. That was our first meaningful shot. We had our first shot from open play on 70-something minutes, 72 minutes, which was the Muniz header that was very comfortably taken in. We were so limp, but the Harry Wilson free kick was a nice moment in a really, really drab hour of football.
Okay, excellent. And I'll go right back over to you, Alex. Now let's talk about the substitutions and what you saw. Before we talk about Kevin, Kevin's separate. We're going to talk about Kevin separately. I want to talk about bringing on Adama. You've already talked about it, and Emile Smith-Rowe, and what you saw and how that changed things a little bit in that second half to get to the point where we got later on in the match.
Yeah, I mean, our substitutes have been impactful. That's one thing. If we criticize Silva, we've got to say he's consistently made substitutes that have come off the bench, scored important goals, helped change the game, put impetus into the second half performance. And that happened again. I wasn't particularly happy with the substitutes, I've got to be honest. I thought Harry Wilson looked the most likely for Fulham at that point. He just had that free kick. He was picking up some nice spaces. We were beginning to dominate, and Wilson scored those beautiful long-range shots in pre-season. And I thought the space was beginning to emerge for a long-range hit from the kind of areas he was picking up. So I was kind of a little bit like, why? He's definitely the player that looks like they're going to score at the moment. Why are we taking him off at 59 minutes? So that said, Adama did really well. He was effective. He was bullying their fullback down the right, put in some good balls. Obviously met that header from Kevin later, which wasn't the best header, but at least he got there. So he had a really good game. He did well and was effective off the bench and helped kind of consolidate Fulham's second half performance as the dominant side. Emil Smith-Rowe as well. He had that moment where he hit the post from the save.
Yes, he did.
Went and gave it back. The thing that annoyed me about Emil Smith-Rowe again is that there was a moment towards, it must have been in the last 5 minutes or so, and the ball was played into him in the midfield. He had tons of room, and you just turn and go at them. He's the one that should be. He was the most expensive player we had until Kevin, of course, and he's lost his place to a kid. He should be going, give me the ball and I'm going to change this game. And instead he just laid it back. He didn't seem to have any awareness that he was in 10 yards of space, and he's still not playing with the attitude that I want to see somebody who, should be furious that he's out the team, frankly. To a kid, he should be fighting for his life. And I'm not seeing that. I'm still seeing a nervous boy who's really not looking up to it. So yes, he was fine. He didn't have a bad game, don't get me wrong. But I don't think he really changed the game, Emil Smith-Rowe. I thought Adama was much more impactful. And I do think we did miss Harry, actually, when he went off. So I'd have definitely taken off Iwobi. I worry if Robinson might not be fit. There's got to be a reason why he didn't come, because Cess wasn't good, and it was clearly something we were lacking was his presence. So I'm worried about his fitness because he's had the whole international break and didn't come on. But yeah, for the other two, Adama did well.
Okay, well, the judge disagrees with you. Disagree with Alex. ESR was part of the change in tempo. So
maybe.
The judge makes his call. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go over to you, Kamal. I'm going to give you the opportunity to talk about Kevin. So I want to get a feel for what it was like when he comes on, and then the opportunities when the ball was at his feet. Let's talk about Kevin's impact when he came on. Oh, Kamal, you there? All right. Looks like Kamal still is muted. So I guess I'm going to have to go.
Sorry about that. I'm here.
That's okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I want to curtail that and edit that. There's something else I just wanted to drop in here. It's an exclusive piece of information. Okay. I'm not sure why the guys don't remember it, but we saw Jedi talk at the end of the match in the usual speaker's corner that the footballers do with Ivan Berry at the end of the match. He's really great, Ivan Berry. And Jedi did say, I'm not fit enough. He goes, I'm on the bench, but I'm not fit enough. And he was asked, well, are you going to play in the next match? He goes, I don't know. Maybe I'm going to run up and down the touchline, but I'm not sure I'm going to join. And the other thing is my stat of the day, which Alex tried to shoot down, which is that 40% of our goals are scored from the left, come in from the left side. And what did Alex say?
I said, well, fine, but how was it 40% from the right as well? I mean, a bit more context would be useful.
So we're missing, I think, but we are missing Robinson because at least there's that flurry and energy. About Kevin,
yes,
when he came on, I don't. Here's the other thing. Sometimes I look at who's come in and how they've come on, and sometimes I don't think that, particularly in this particular game, that Marco has control of everything. Okay, I feel that Muniz is starting because he says, "I want the contract. You want me to sign? I need to be starting." And Muniz is super sub. He scores when he starts as a sub. He doesn't score when he starts. And then, he's got his hands tied with some of the other players. And Josh King as well. I want to play. I scored a goal, and then the crowd screaming at him, "We want Kevin." I wish, I'm not so sure who's in charge. Even though I love Marco's dog, top dog, I'm not so sure he's in charge. And I don't know, with the Kevin thing is that it was like unwrapping a gift for Christmas. That's what it felt like.
Okay.
And I wanted to know about, what Matt has seen in his crystal ball, like all those weeks ago. I never watched any pre-reels or like adverts about him or anything on YouTube. I just wanted to know. And, literally I know the judge is saying that ESR changed the pace of the game. You've got to back up Alex on that one. Because what I think Alex was talking about is when ESR got the ball right in front of the goal and he passed it to his right instead of running with it. And that was a bit disappointing. But, those substitutions when ESR came on, they did kind of speed up the game a little bit, but I don't know. I'm saying a million things at once, but
that's okay. That's okay. So no worries. So again, I want to go around to everyone to one more time talk about Kevin. Matt, I'll go to you. It's interesting because I did the post-match show. Now, obviously, the players are very different, but Giannis brought up a player that had a similar type of impact when he was on the. I said, "Who has this type of impact?" He said Berbatov. Now, obviously, it's a completely different type of player, but that basically you can't take your eyes off of Berbatov, and Berbatov can basically do whatever he wants. He felt like there's not been a player like that with Fulham since Berbatov. How do you feel about that? And also talk about his performance.
I think this was so much more exciting than Berbatov. So Berbatov was wonderful. Don't get me wrong. He was a great, acquisition and a phenomenal talent. But we'd all seen Berbatov, and he was over the hill, relatively speaking, in his career, right? This is a 22-year-old who none of us have seen.
Yeah.
And, and that's why that, the clamor for him to come on, the pressure, it's the first time he got the ball, we were all like, go on. And he delivered, right? It was like three step overs, skinned his guy. And immediately it's like, that's the best thing that's happened all game. And that was within 20 seconds of him coming on. And he looked.
That's crazy.
I think the thing that I really liked about it, apart from just the prospect of the excitement of having someone who every time they get the ball, you're thinking, okay,
something's going to happen.
Something's going to happen here, was that he didn't look nervous at all. He didn't look in any way fazed by the fact that the fans had been chanting for him, that every time he got the ball, everyone was like on their feet thinking, this is it. I think he did 3 different types of cross within 5 minutes. He did a little dink one that led to the sort of Sasha, missing the sort of the volley. He did a more classic one that Adama headed. No, that was the outside of the right one, and then he did one that was sort of a cutback one that Jimenez was a bit too slow to get to. He just looked. He looked like the guys on Miners Weekly had billed him. They said this is the most exciting player we've had since Willian, when Willian first went to Chelsea.
That's right.
And he felt like someone who was that quality. I mean, if he'd scored the shot that led to the corner we scored from, if that had gone in, it would have been an all-time debut, right? That would have been we'd have all been signed up for tickets to the Ballon d'Or at the end of the year. Go and watch the first Fulham Ballon d'Or winner, and in the modern era. All that. I mean, honestly, it was just so exciting, and it was maybe the context of it being such a drab game that one player could come on and make that much difference. But it just felt so exciting, and as you say, Kamal started by saying he's actually our only sort of proper signing, respect to Monsieur Lecomte. He's our only, but he's ours. Like he's our player, and I think tremendously exciting.
It is, Matt. And Alex, I just want to get your thoughts talking about Kevin, and then we'll talk about the goal to end talking about the match. But what's fascinating about this, that's why I brought up the whole thing, because I found it interesting that Giannis brought up Berbatov, obviously completely different, but just someone I've been chiming for that Fulham needed to sign 3 impact players this summer. I don't know about Chukwueze. He might be one of these two, and who knows if the young striker turns out to be an impact player as well. But this player that you saw for 15 minutes, it's exactly what they need. Exactly what they, listen, I'll give you credit on one thing. I know how you feel about Smith Rowe, but this is what I wanted from Smith Rowe.
Yeah.
This kid delivered from the first second. That's what I wanted from Smith Rowe. And I think maybe that's also why you might be disappointed in Smith Rowe. You wanted that type of impact. Is that fair to say?
100%. You want somebody who's going to grab that game by the scruff of the neck. And Matt said something really perceptive and absolutely right about the fact he just didn't look phased. He didn't look phased when he was on the touchline. Everybody was shouting at him, was cheering him. He's just got a smile on his face. He's like, watch this. And the thing is, you can do it in the Ukrainian league. That's another thing to step into the Premier League as a 22-year-old and be so confident in your ability. Like you're like, just watch. And he did so many different types of things. That's what's really encouraging. So one, his pace off the mark is phenomenal. So I reckon he's already got the record for the most step overs to minutes in Premier League history, and also step overs to touches. But there were people like Dan James chasing after him, and with the ball at his feet, Dan James is one of the fastest players in the Premier League. He couldn't keep up. So he didn't even look like he was running, but like Dan James, I can't get back because those pace off the mark with the ball at his feet, phenomenal. His choice, like that outside of the boot flick, that ability to do something in that way means you don't need to beat a defender. You can, the ball is in a place where most people would have to take a touch, go back or whatever. Yep. He just dinks it with a perfect ball with the outside of his foot. That gives you so much more space. It puts the defender completely on the back foot. So that was brilliant. And then also that the shot, which at the time I think we thought it was going over. Seeing it on Match of the Day, I think that was
what a shot.
And so the variety of things he did, I think it was an incredible, and it was less than 20 minutes, or it was about 20 minutes including injury time. I mean, that is phenomenal. It's one of the best 20 minutes I've ever seen a player have. It was brilliant, and the confidence of it. So exciting, the range of things he did. I mean, I hope like hell it's not something that you've got all the kind of video analysis stuff. I hope he doesn't get sussed out but at the moment I'm just seeing abundance of talent, and he knows it, which is great.
Well, you know what's interesting, Alex, and then we'll move on to talk about the goal, because there was a player that scored 5 goals in I think 5 matches. And that was Manor Solomon. And Manor Solomon's like, but they figured him out. And then they shut him down. Kevin, I can already tell you, based on everything you guys are describing, he's going to have an answer for all that.
Yeah.
I think that's so with Manor Solomon. So the players that are really exciting. So you've got people like Moussa Dembele and Manor Solomon. Those players had their moments. I mean, Moussa, should always be on the podium. Manor Solomon had that purple patch, but neither of those players on arrival were just add water brilliant. Kevin, just straight out the box, I'm brilliant from the first touch I get of the ball. Moussa Dembele started as a not very good striker. I
remember. Yeah.
I mean, I think he did score 2 weirdly on his debut, but he was not very good in the game where Bobby Zamora broke his leg against Wolves. And Manor Solomon had quite a few games coming in and not doing a lot, and then he found that little patch. This guy's just come on, and instantly we're already okay. Let's build the whole team around him. And that I can't remember the last time that happened. Berbatov, to your sort of post-match show, Berbatov probably had the same sort of initial impact.
Yeah.
But it was not a surprise to any of us, right? We all knew Berbatov from Spurs and Man United,
Yep. Kamal, do you have something you want to say?
Yeah, it's not very quick. So I didn't actually, manage to kind of percolate my Kevin feelings. Is that we were standing behind, when he first came on, he was standing in front of the Hammersmith end with his hands on his hips, soaking up thousands of cheers. And it felt to me like he was just pumping himself up. And so I asked somebody, I think it was Matt, I said, how do you think he felt? And he goes, he just must have felt wonderful with all the fans screaming his name, and it just must have made him feel very much at home.
That's great.
The other thing I want to say was that I don't know if you'll understand it, but the first 3 minutes of Kevin were the last 3 minutes of Seri. he was what Seri was supposed to be, and it took
that's
months
another
for Seri to get there. And
Right.
Kevin's done that in the first 3 months, and
That's
we're
crazy.
talking about impact players. He kind of reminds me of the kind of signings that Tigana was always looking for.
Right.
And that's like he's a proper Tigana style player. In fact, he even plays a little bit like Tigana. And there's that, Steve Melbourne. I just can't think of a player who's as so exciting as him in his first 15 minutes. But I want to ask you a question. Sorry,
Go ahead.
I spoke to you yesterday, and you said, I don't want to talk about Kevin. I want you to explain what that means.
No, I don't think I said that. I don't remember saying I don't want to talk about Kevin. I told you that I wanted to mention the fact that it was a very difficult match to watch, and I wanted there be a focus on not just the positive and be all about Kevin. I wanted to actually talk about the match with you guys because you were there and get your experiences. Yes, of course we were going to talk about Kevin, but I also wanted to talk about everything else, and we've done that. Come on. I think we've done a good balance, don't you?
I just didn't understand. I mean, you're like the biggest cheerleader for Fulham, but I was wondering.
No, I was just disappointed. Honestly, while you guys are talking, I'm going to be honest with you. I was just disappointed by the approach of the game. I was disappointed by the way we were set up. I'm glad that Matt said this because now it's getting me to think about this. With the starting 11, Matt, actually, that's why I love doing the show with you because you're getting me to think about something else. It's probably part of the reason why he played Berg and Lukic had to do with Leeds United. And that makes sense now. But at the time, when I don't have the lineup for Leeds United, I'm thinking, what are you doing? Why are you going out with these guys? But when you match it up, when you guys actually see it, Matt's right. It does make sense why he did that. So I can be proven wrong. And I was wrong with thinking that if you think about what he was probably thinking about with the opponent. And actually, I got to give Silver credit for thinking in those terms. But I was just thinking when I saw that starting 11, what are you doing? Why are you setting this up so negative? But it makes sense now. It definitely
It could have been more negative. He could have gone with the 5 at the back. If he'd gone up with the 5 at the back, I would have been in the Thames. So at least it was back to a back 4, which, if you think, we started the Man U game with 5 at the back.
That's true.
Castagna as the right wing back and Sessegnon on the left wing back. So at least it was more progressive.
No, good point. Good point on that. Okay, guys, quickly, let's talk about the goal, and then we'll talk about man of the match. Kamal?
Goal of the season.
I'll give you – what was that?
Goal of the season. Now,
goal of the season.
Well, you heard what I said yesterday. I think that Fulham have a knack of making bizarre selections for goals of the month. And I think that could be our goal of the month this month.
Great header.
It's amazing. But it also, I haven't seen it. I saw a very quick clip of it. I'm sure the other guys will have a better perspective. But it looks to me like the ball accidentally knocked him out or knocked him over and slammed in the net. I haven't really had a chance to look at it. But, everybody's saying, what was he thinking? But, we were just so, everybody, because it was such a frustrating and dire match. Yep. It was one of those, it was almost like the Brentford game. People were just up and flying and jumping and hugging each other. And Alex's morbid expression of his face had dissolved into some kind of ethereal pleasure,
Oh, I love that.
So it was like a complete transformation. And I still don't quite know what happened. I still don't understand what happened,
Alex, over to you. I want to just share this with you. You guys probably have seen this because if you watch the highlights of this, Gentleman Jim thought it was Tom Kearney who scored.
Yeah, he wasn't under much pressure. I think he basically just lost the fight. The ball lost his concentration.
Yeah.
2 guys up went, and he kind of slightly ducked. I don't think he was expecting it to hit his head at all, and it flew in the corner. Extremely lucky. But what I would say is it just puts us in a completely different position. It's such an important goal because those 3 points, we've got 5 points now. And I actually think we might even talk about the BK and AK era, the before Kevin and after Kevin. So now
wow, Alex is going a little nutty today. I love it.
Well, the truth is, if he has the impact that he promises in this game, that gives us a really good platform. 5 points, and now we've got the like Matt said, a depth of squad. We had a great bench coming.
Okay.
We've got what I think is going to be a player who could be a game changer, and we can really build from here. So that was a ridiculous goal, a stupid error, but it's an incredibly important goal that gives us a really good platform for the rest of the season.
Okay.
The
honestly,
season.
And honestly, I'm excited to see Chukwueze as well, because I want to see what that whole dynamic looks like. I'm definitely excited about that. Matt, I'll give you final word on the goal.
Well, I, as you know, more positive than most people about Andres Pereira, but Sasa Lukic's corners have been a tremendous improvement from what we'd endured for the previous 3 years. And we've already scored, we've got 4 points from corners already this season. Brighton last minute equaliser, Leeds last minute winner. It was a good delivery. It's one of those freakish own goals. I mean, Suhail says it deflects onto Goodmanson's head. I haven't seen that it deflected, but there was someone who was just in front of him. Maybe it deflected a bit. It seemed to go in slow motion from where we were. And Kamal mentioned the Brentford Harry Wilson show last year.
Yep.
The second of those goals was a header off his shoulder that took an age to go in as well. It felt quite like that.
Yep.
But equally, it was also clear that Caldalo was never going to get there. And it was there's a coaching philosophy in this part of the world, Russ, in particular, which is to stoically always put a man on each post defending from corners, and it's seen as quite old school, but that was a pretty good advert for it because Leeds didn't have one.
No,
and the ball just gently looped in. I thought the really nice thing was the reaction of the players. The players could tell it had been a really bad day at the office, and that we'd won the game, and they universally just went absolutely ballistic. And we can now put this game in the bin. Move on. I mean, Russ, I've asked you off air before whether you've rewatched the games, and usually when we win a game, you watch it 3 times.
Yeah, I do.
Have you watched this one back even once? Oh, why?
Because when I do the shows, I really want to take a look at what happened. I really want to feel confident in what I've seen and see if I find anything else. That's why I know, especially in this case, my wife's upstairs. She probably thinks I'm insane, but yes, I do this. Especially early in the morning, I'm doing it, and I did it today.
I question your sanity if you're rewatching that game.
Yeah, well, it's fair. You can certainly question my sanity when it comes to that. I definitely agree with you on that. The one thing before we go to man of the match, so we are feeling more confident. We're talking about before and after Kevin. Let's say Chukwueze works out and the young Swedish striker is good. Does that change enough to have us talk about Europe again, Matt?
No.
Okay.
I don't think I can, because up until 93rd minute, as discussed, I was thinking, oh God, are we rubbish? This is a straight draw against Brighton, a straight draw against United, and now we're home to Leeds. Oh, maybe we're awful. So one own goal from 8 yards out does not make me suddenly think we're going to be, flying off to Portugal next year.
Okay. See, I had to end with that's okay. I had to end with a little positivity, but let's end with man of the match. I'll go to Kamal first. Kamal, who's your man of the match?
Yeah, Goodmanson, really.
Okay. Really?
No, I mean, I just want to put this in the context. We all know who it was for us, but Anderson had a lot better game. I think Matt said he was so much better. He's almost that break he's had over the summer, because he was really playing tired after that injury. He was back. He looked like he was ready for it again.
Okay.
And thank God he was, because most of the play was in the first half. And also Traore was the person who was trying hardest when he came on. But it's got to be the team. Actually, I'm just joking. It's not the team. It's got to be one. There's only one person who was really phenomenally outstanding, and I'm not going to say his name. So.
Okay. All right. So it's Kevin for Kamal. Alex, Kevin
all day long. Yeah.
Okay. Matt, are you gonna make it A 3, and I actually already said Kevin's. And
Yeah, I think he was just so impactful. It has to be Kevin. I agree. And especially if he had our most exciting shot on target with that. If that had gone in, it would have been I'd build the statue.
Okay. And just so you know, we actually had a comment on the post-match show for Kenny Tete as man of the match, which I found interesting. What do you make of that, Matt?
I said after the game, I thought he and Anderson were our two best players who had started the game.
Yep.
I think Anderson looked good, though, particularly in the first half up against Okafor at times because they were getting in behind Kenny Tete. So Kenny, I'm delighted we've got him, and I thought he was really good, and he remains almost impossible to dribble past. He is not as good as he used to be at bombing up and down. So when he goes up the pitch, he takes a while to get back now, and so they had a couple of breakaways. So I'd probably mark him down a little bit there. If it wasn't Kevin, I would have given it Anderson.
Okay. And do you think Anderson has gotten a little bit of his legs back, or is that just me reading something into? Do you think he has a little bit more pace, or is it just?
It's hard to tell. I mean, I think it'll be tested next week because he'll be up against Sharda, who sort of drifts in from that left.
That'll be a good test to see if he truly has added any more pace. Because again, going back to
I will tell you now, though, I'll be very disappointed if we play Berger and Lukic from the start next week, because basically Brentford will play 5 at the back, especially now that Kevin is on the left.
Yeah.
And one of their 3 midfielders is Henderson, who can't run.
Yes.
Yarmouk can't run, and Jensen can't run. So if we put in 2 midfielders who can't run, I'm going to be really frustrated. So we definitely need to, if Iwobi is fit, Iwobi needs to move into central midfield.
I'm there with you.
Mobility, and we need to put Kevin on the left wing.
Okay. Matt's crystal ball now has Iwobi central. I'm liking that. Okay. Let's see if that happens. All right. Guys, let's wrap up the show. Great show as always. I always love doing this show with you. Final thoughts from you, Alex?
Thanks for having us on again, Russ. And despite this being a game that goes in the bin, it will stand in the memory because of Kevin. And I think we should all be grateful to have him. What a joy!
Yeah, absolutely. Kamal, final thoughts.
Just a shout out to all Leeds fans. Goodmanson, we're not going to forget you. We owe you.
Okay, very good. How about you, Matt? Final thoughts before we go.
I'm always a really firm believer in not looking at the table until sort of 5 to 10 games into the season. But when you're 10th, it's just fine to look at it now. So feel free to look at the table now. We're in 10th. Life is good.
Okay, I think we're 11th, aren't we?
We might be down to 11th now. I don't know, but yeah, we were 10th going into today.
Yep. Still,
no, we're still 10th.
Oh, we're still 10th. Okay, great. Okay, I'll take that because Manchester United are crap, and that's a good thing, actually. All right. Well, great show, and the guys will be back throughout the season when there's a home match. I hope to have them on as much as I can. I've really enjoyed it, but it is time to wrap up the show. For Alex, Kamal, and Matt, I'm Russ Goldman. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk.